Real-life stories narrated from the experiences of R2K. The Omen's Arrival Part 2. The next morning, I awoke with a clear purpose: to meet the Guru. The events of the previous day had ignited a burning curiosity within me, and I was determined to uncover the truth behind the mysteries that seemed to entwine my life. I carefully packed the t-shirt I had worn yesterday along with the one I was wearing today, thinking it best to be thoroughly prepared for whatever the Guru had planned. To make it seem authentic, I spent the day engaging in various activities, ensuring the clothes were sufficiently worn and sweaty. I informed my parents that I planned to spend the evening at my friend's house and might even stay overnight. They didn't question me much, and I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension bubbling inside me. I was eager to witness how they intended to help my friend's cousin and to delve deeper into the realm of the supernatural that had been haunting my thoughts. As I approached their home, an eerie atmosphere enveloped the place. The facade looked much the same as the previous day, but now the entrance was littered with broken coconut shells and halved lemons, their juices seeping into the dirt. The sight sent a shiver down my spine. It was evident that preparations for the ritual were well underway. I knocked softly on the door, and my friend quickly ushered me inside. The house was dimly lit, the air heavy with the scent of incense mixed with something more acrid that I couldn't quite place. My nerves were on edge, and in my anxious excitement, I stumbled over a small bowl near the doorway, the contents spilling across the floor. I mumbled an apology and tried to steady myself, only to accidentally step on my friend's foot. He shot me a puzzled look, especially when I instinctively greeted his cousin as we passed her room. I realized I needed to calm down and focus. We made our way to a room at the far end of the house, where the Guru was seated. Dressed in simple attire, he greeted me with a warm, knowing smile that seemed to see right through me. We shook hands, and I handed him the clothes I had brought as requested. He gestured to one of his assistants, who took the t-shirt I had worn that morning. "We'll begin shortly in the living room," the Guru informed me calmly. Unable to contain my curiosity, I blurted out, "How do you know for sure that she's possessed?" The Guru's eyes twinkled with mild amusement as soft chuckles emanated from his men surrounding him. Before he could respond, my friend's father intervened gently. "Perhaps we can discuss all this after the ritual." I nodded, feeling a flush of embarrassment creeping up my neck. The group moved towards the living room, which had been transformed into a makeshift sanctum. The furniture had been pushed aside to create space at the center, where a large ornate metal vessel sat gleaming under the muted light. The Guru had changed into flowing robes of deep crimson, and was meticulously applying ash markings to his forehead and hands, his demeanor now markedly solemn. He instructed that my friend's cousin be taken to a room at the very back of the house. I found it odd that she wouldn't be present during the ritual, but reminded myself that I was far from knowledgeable about these practices. The Guru's assistants began arranging various items around the metal vessel: more coconuts, bundles of herbs, and intricately crafted talismans. They ignited a fire within the vessel, the flames dancing and casting ominous shadows on the walls. The air grew thick with smoke and the pungent aroma of burning herbs, creating an atmosphere that was both hypnotic and unsettling. Taking his place before the fire, the Guru closed his eyes and began chanting in a low, resonant voice. The chants reverberated through the room, stirring something deep and primal within me. After several minutes, he reached for the t-shirt I had brought, holding it over the flames as he continued his incantations. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, anxiety and anticipation mooring within me. After some time, the Guru opened his eyes and looked directly at me. A serene smile spread across his face. "There's nothing to worry about," he said reassuringly. Relief washed over me, but before I could respond, the Guru added, "However, I would like you to stay back after the ritual. There are some things we need to discuss." My heartbeat quickened at his words. Could he know about the shadows lurking in my own home? Was this finally the opportunity to get some answers? I nodded eagerly, trying to mask my excitement. The Guru then announced that the main ritual would commence. He instructed the family members to assist his men with anything they might need and resumed his place before the fire. His chants grew louder and more intense, the syllables rolling off his tongue with practiced ease. He tossed various substances into the flames, powders that sparked and flared, and oils that made the fire hiss and roar. After about an hour, he retrieved several pieces of clothing from a bag handed to him by my friend's father. I recognized them as belonging to my friend's cousin. With deliberate care, he began cutting small strips from the garments, tossing each piece into the fire. The moment the first scrap touched the flames, a piercing scream echoed from the back of the house. I jumped at the sound, my eyes wide with shock. How could she have known what was happening from so far away? As each piece of fabric burned, her screams grew more intense, filled with anguish and something that sounded almost inhuman. The guru continued his ritual undeterred, his chants rising above the cacophony. Occasionally he would mumble questions under his breath, and his assistants would listen intently, then relay responses that seemed to come from the cousin herself. It was bewildering. My friend and I exchanged baffled glances, our skepticism weighing in the face of such inexplicable events. Unable to contain our concern, we quietly made our way to the room where his cousin was kept. The scene inside was harrowing. She lay cold on the floor, her body convulsing, and traces of vomit stained the floor and her mother's clothes. Her mother and sister clung to each other, tears streaming down their faces as they watched her suffer. Suddenly, amidst her thrashing, the cousin gasped and uttered, "I saw her on the terrace." Hair flowing, so beautiful. Her voice was distorted, almost unrecognizable. Startled, we noticed one of the guru's men nearby, carefully noting her words and signaling them back towards the living room. The oppressive atmosphere became too much to bear, and we retreated back to the main hall. The ritual continued for what felt like hours, until finally, the guru stood up, his face glistening with sweat, but his eyes shining with triumph. He produced a fresh lemon from his bag, holding it over the flames while chanting one final incantation. Then, with a swift motion, he placed the lemon beside the fire and declared, "It is done." A collective sigh of relief seemed to pass through the house. The guru explained that he would dispose of the lemon in a proper manner on his way back, ensuring the spirit would not return. My friend's family rushed to check on the cousin, their footsteps echoing down the hallway. As the commotion settled, the guru approached me, his expression thoughtful. "Now about that discussion," he said softly, gesturing for me to follow him outside. The cool night air was a stark contrast to the intense heat and energy inside. My heart pounded in my chest, anticipation and anxiety swirling within me. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The chance to uncover truths that had long been buried in the shadows.